Good Friday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Thanks for joining us. NFL schedule is out, so all the NFL teams know who they will play, when they will play, where they will play, how it lays out. As a friendly reminder, AFC North, the Browns division, has the 3 toughest strength of schedules for the upcoming season based on how their opponents finished last year. Browns almost 55% win percentage with the teams they will play. The Bengals, who finished 4th in the division, still above a 500 winning percentage, but they're down at 16th. The folks from CBS Sports debated and talked about the Browns schedule and just how important it is for the Browns to get off to a good start.
When you look at what the teams did a year ago outside of Dallas and even Jacksonville, I mean, Giants didn't do a lot last year. The Raiders, we know about the Commanders and their issues. They have a new quarterback. I mean, this is a great opportunity for Cleveland to get to jump out early when it comes to winning ball games, because week 1, you got Dallas, a worthy opponent, playoff caliber opponent, but they will be favored in that ball game. I think it's safe to say in the first 5 ball games of the season, I haven't seen the lines for all of those games, but my assumption would say Cleveland would be the favorites in all of those ball games against those opponents, even at home against the Dallas Cowboys. So for Cleveland, I mean, this is a schedule, even though it's the toughest schedule, as you laid out for us, Chris, but they don't start in the midst of the toughness.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So you get an opportunity, if you take care of your business like you're supposed to, when you get in the midst of that gauntlet, you have room for error because you took care of your business early on. So when you look at those ball games against, the Cowboys and Jacksonville and Washington and the Raiders and the Commanders, and then you get Philly, I mean, that's a prime opportunity. That's the best way you would like to start your season, knowing that you have one of the toughest schedules of the National Football League.
With that, let's welcome in G. Bush, 92.3 The Fan, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. G. Bush, they better win early because it's going to be brutal late.
Yeah, they got to get off to a good start. I know it's too early sometimes to call it must-wins, but there's a couple of games in there they got to win, because if you can't beat the Commanders with a rookie quarterback, you can't beat the Raiders. You got to be able to beat the Giants and Daniel Jones, and you should be able. If you call yourself a playoff team, first game of the year, you should be able to come and win a game with the Cowboys. And I think this is a year where now for me, this was always the money year. And what I mean by that is, this is the year in which the Browns have been taken off probation, right? The Browns are now on national television. They are now on with the Cowboys, and it's going to be a marquee matchup of that weekend. Tom Brady will be calling the game. Everybody will be excited. And, you got matchups. You got Jimmy and Jerry with the 2 billionaires. You got Dak Prescott versus Deshaun Watson. You have the matchup of Denzel Ward, CeeDee Lamb, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons. You even have, a guy like David Njoku going back and forth with Micah Parsons, talking about how they disrespecting the city of Cleveland, not putting no respect on the Browns' name. This is a great opportunity. It's going to be a big-time game. And if you can start off and win that football game, right, can you imagine if you get a Deshaun Watson game where he's over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, limits his turnovers, and he makes that statement against the Cowboys at home? Now, everybody in that locker room, including Kevin Stefanski, the ownership, and including the fans, are like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. And then you got a favorable matchup at Jacksonville. You beat them last year with your backup quarterback. The Giants, then you got the Commanders as well as the Raiders. You have an opportunity to step out there and you could be undefeated going into one of your first hard games against the Eagles. So for me, these are pivotal games in the beginning of the season, because when you look at the later in the schedule, what you're going to see is that last, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks, those games are going to be all about positioning in the playoffs. You got the Chiefs, you got some of those other teams, you got the Baltimore Ravens, you got the Bengals in there, you got the Dolphins in there. You're gonna be jousting and trying to fight for home field advantage and AFC North seeding on those games. So you got to jump out like game busters and get a good feeling going early in this season.
All right, this one's from A to Z Sports. 3 biggest games on the Browns' schedule, and they cheated because they say every AFC North game is won. The Chiefs at the Browns and the Browns at the Eagles are the other 2. And you know, that's one of the challenges of playing in the best division in football. You have 6 games. Nobody in the division is going 6-0, and I would say it's either going to be everybody's 4-2 or 3-3. That would be my guess in the AFC North. That's how good the division is.
Yeah. Look, you know, that's just take a look at it. You know, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They got the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. And the Chargers got a brand new coach, and then they stripped away a lot of those old veterans off the offense. You look at Denver, who's gonna, you guys are out there with Bo Nix, and are they gonna be starting a rookie at that time? The Raiders do have, I believe they got Gardner Minshew starting for them now. But I mean, these guys are all rebuilding. These teams aren't contenders, and so when you look at the Chiefs, these games are going to be very important because the Chiefs are now playing AFC North teams, right? They get the Ravens. And one of the things that put pressure on you is if it comes down to a tiebreaker, you know, you got all these guys on your schedule. And the only surefire way to get a first round playoff game is to win your division. So when you're in the toughest division in football, you're at a disadvantage. Also, look at the Miami Dolphins, right? I think they could be in a position that they were in last year, this year again, which is saying they might not necessarily have a better record than you, but if they win the AFC East, guess what? They're going to be a team that's going to get a first round playoff game. Look at that division. They can win that division. Bills have taken a step back. The Jets, they're on prime time a lot, but they've not shown anything that they're going to win that division. And, once again, Drake May over at with the Patriots, they're starting a rookie quarterback or getting rookie quarterbacks throughout the year. So for me, the Browns are in a tough position because not only do they have the AFC North, but they picked the NFC East was kind of difficult with the Eagles, and you still have the 2-time defending champions, the Chiefs on your schedule too. Joe Burrow is back. You know what the Ravens do every year. They seem to get 13 wins. And those Pittsburgh Steelers, don't laugh at them. All they did is make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, go figure that out. All right, this is from the Bleacher Report. Riskiest QB contracts of the last decade. They go Deshaun Watson, 5 years, $230 million guaranteed. It's simple, really. If Watson doesn't stay healthy and play at a high level with Cleveland in 2024, it would not be a stretch to call his contract the biggest boondoggle in NFL history. Bush, I know you're probably getting as tired of talking about the $230 million guaranteed contract as I am. The $230 million guaranteed hasn't kept them from, tell me a free agent they haven't been able to sign. Tell me a move they haven't been able to sign. The reason they did that, that's what got Deshaun Watson to choose the Browns instead of the other 11 teams that were courting him.
Yeah, and I wish they would do I wish they would dig a little deeper than that. When you miss on a first round quarterback, which the Cleveland Browns did, let's take everybody back. The Cleveland Browns went 1-31. They tore it all the way down to the studs, and there's some people who never made it back from that 1-31. There's some people that just jumped off the ship and said, I can't do this no more. So when you go 1-31, you have all of that invested. You get to a point where you have Baker for 4 years, and then you realize, hey, he's not the guy. When you make that error and that calculation, you are automatically set back. It doesn't matter about the contract in the 234. Most likely, most times, to salvage the team that you have, you've now built it up to a point where you got the quarterback and you think you got the roster to go with it. When the quarterback fails, you still have a roster that is made to win today. So what are you going to do? Are you going to go look at the Joe Bitonio and Teller and Myles Garrett and say, hey, we're going to go with a rookie quarterback out of his draft? Good luck with that. They're knocking on your door and say, get me up out of here. They've seen I've talked to people. And one of the worst nightmares for all of these guys, Myles Garrett, some of these veterans, Joe Bitonio, is I don't want to be another Joe Thomas. I don't care about me being, first ballot Hall of Fame. That's a great accomplishment. But I asked Joe Thomas face to face. I say, Joe, would you take the jacket, or would you take the gold jacket, or would you take the ring? And he said, listen, man, it's a great honor to be in the Hall of Fame. But listen, we play this game as a team sport to win at the highest level as an NFL champion. So if you want to go to those guys and tell them, hey, we're gonna start over with a rookie, good luck with that. The Cleveland Browns did what they had to do. They had the roster. They had to go out. And when you listen, I always tell people like this: I might not want to spend a bunch of money on getting a replacement car, but I still got to go to work. The terms might not be great, and if it's too much of an expensive car, the interest rate might be kind of high on it too. It might even have a little bit of high miles. But guess what? Are you going to take the bus to work? Are you gonna pony up and say, I got to do what I got to do and go get that car out there and get back and forth to work? I think all Americans understand that they would take the interest rate, they would take the high miles, they would take some of the dings on it. But as long as you're gonna give me that car today and I could drive off and I could go to work, I'll take it. The Browns did the same thing. Can I get Deshaun Watson? Is the contract a little high? Did we have to give up a little bit? Sure. But guess what? It kept the Browns in the game. It kept the Browns relevant, and it kept the Browns, as of today, still a Super Bowl contender because they were able to get the quarterback, and also at the same time, like you said, they still got whatever they wanted in free agency and still made moves to make the roster better.
All right, before we go to break, so Ken Dorsey, we've heard, has his fingerprints all over this offense. Kevin Stefanski's told us he's leading kind of the meetings that are installing the offense and kind of reconfiguring it. What do you expect to see? How do you expect it to be different? And what are your expectations for the offense this year?
I want to see new blood. I want to see a fresh take on offense. I want to see some of the routes combinations. I want to see you give receivers the opportunity to know what the difference between zone and man coverage is, and giving them the different options to run deeper routes, to break off some routes, to be able to play more free. I want to see the marriage of the run game that we like and love with the Cleveland Browns, as well as the passing game. Hey, no one said that you had to give up completely on play action. Play action is a part of your game, just like the inside zone game, outside run game. It's a lot of different things. All that RPOs is part of the offense. We just want to see an explosive attack that makes defenses be on their heels, not vice versa. We don't want to be in football games where we're just trying to survive to the end of the game. We want, for one time, to see the Browns put the pedal to the metal and don't let up. We want to see those touchdown throws, the dagger throws in the fourth quarter. And we want to see Deshaun Watson throw the deep ball like he did in Houston. It's one of the best parts of his game. Let's get that here. Let's get that going here, and let's get an offense that is it attacks you at multiple levels. It attacks you as multiple with the way they come in position groups and in groupings, whether it's running backs, whether it's receivers, tight ends. We want a dynamic offense that makes coordinators say, I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how to stop what they're doing. I think that's what I want to see from it.
G. Bush, 92.3 The Fan, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about what the experts have as far as the Browns' win total. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Moneymaker from the Ohio Lottery has no interest in beating around the bush. Money Maker. You play the game, you could win money. Up to $2 million. With more than $88 million in prizes from $50 to $500. Moneymaker cuts right to the cash. Unlike this guy.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. G. Bush, when I look at this, I've seen experts say 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins for the Browns. I think that's the low end. Again, you play in the AFC North. I think you're going to get probably 2 or 3 losses in the division, no matter what team you are, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, listen, I believe that, you know, if you go 4-2 division, that puts you in a real nice position. 4-2 look real good. Don't even say 5-1. Like 5-1 is crazy, but you got to think about this too. They're getting their first game, their first division rivals, the first 3, they're at home. They're getting the Ravens at home. They're getting, you know, they're getting the Bengals at home. They're getting a lot of these games at home, and then later in the season, I believe they play the Bengals first in Cleveland Brown Stadium on a primetime game. But most of their games that they got the division rivals, they're at home in the beginning of the season. So for me, I like the way that the schedule shapes up, because you're playing almost 6 games before you even touch down on a division opponent, right? You're getting those, you're developing, you're warmed up, you're getting all the kinks out of the offense. Now you should be lathered up and ready to go during the middle of the season when you do have the Ravens coming to town, when you do start to have some of those scheduled games. So for me, when people start talking about 8 wins and 9 wins and stuff like that, man, they had 11 with PJ Walker, man. Like, they had 11 with PJ Walker. Like, they've gotten better at receiver. They've gotten better at a lot of different places. And the elephant in the room is Watson will be better, right? So to me, I think, you know, a lot of people are misguided in that. And I don't see how you can just, you know, give us 8-9 wins. And it's one of those things where I think this year you're going to have an opportunity, and you'll see the tide change a lot. If Deshaun Watson plays well early in the season, you're going to have a lot of this changing, because what's going to happen is, before we were doing a lot of 1 o'clock games. Now we're in primetime games playing against primetime. We got the toughest schedule, and there's a lot of games even at the end of the season that could be flexed, like the last game against the Ravens. You're going to have opportunities, and the Browns themselves are going to have opportunities. And I'll tell you this. He has an opportunity. Deshaun Watson has a good chance. Week 1 against the Cowboys, if he comes out and balls out, people will take notice. He also has another game in the middle of the season against the Eagles. It's at Philadelphia. He balls out and with another primetime game, guess what? People are going to take notice. And then obviously the game against Patrick Mahomes, and I don't say this lightly. If Deshaun Watson is able to come out and really beat Patrick Mahomes in front of his home crowd, and that's the Chiefs, there's going to be a whole lot of people that's going to forget a whole lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of people that are still holding on to the Baker thing that will forget all about that. I think he can almost pretty much repair a lot of his image, on the field image, in the thought process, by winning some of these games, because now we get to see him on national TV, and they're against the toughest schedule in the league. And if he can go and lead the Browns, you know, to the playoffs and win this division with the toughest schedule, a lot of people are going to have to just shut up. Yeah,
I'm with you. Let me ask you this then. What's something that could derail this season, do you think?
Look, okay. Now, the nightmares, oh, gosh. One of the things that can derail the season is injuries. If Deshaun Watson misses 3-4 games, that's disastrous. He has to play all these games, all of them. He has to, like, just not only for the team but for himself, right? To be fully back, it's like, I need to be out here every single game. I don't need to be like, oh, well, Deshaun looks really good the first 3 games, then he gets hurt. We can't do that. Another thing that can derail us is if we come out and you have a situation where you can't run the football effectively. One of the things that could derail us is the fact that before, we know what to expect from Kevin Stefanski. We don't know what to expect from this offense. We don't. I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. No one's seen it. What happens if it don't gel? What happens if all of a sudden the Browns are pass happy and they forget what the bread and butter was up front? Bill Callahan, if the offensive line does not perform up to snuff. One of the things I worry about, and that's why the Browns went in the trenches, is because right now Teller and Bitonio are a little long in the tooth. We already know Conklin has been injured. DeJuan Jones and Jed Wills ended up on injury reserve. If the Browns come out and the veterans get old overnight and they get injured again, we could be in for a long one. So the same thing that killed us before last year, but we kind of, got into the playoffs and was able to do a little bit of something down the backstretch because of the magic Flacco had. But this year, with this type of schedule, we're going to need to be effective up front. We put some starts together. We need these guys to be cohesive, and we cannot be playing musical chairs at tackle, trying to figure out if Deshaun Watson, with the lookout blocks, because we got guys off the street. So injuries is the biggest thing to me. Deshaun has to play every single game. Offensive line has to stay healthy, and you need to be able to figure out what they're going to run offensively. There can't be an identity crisis, mid-season and changing the playbook up.
All right, before I let you go, former Steelers defensive back Ryan Clark on ESPN's Get Up talked about the Steelers schedule. Remember, AFC North has the 3 toughest schedules between the Steelers, Browns, and the Ravens. Here's what Clark thought about the Steelers schedule.
Who made this schedule?
It's unfair.
Hey,
somebody at Park Avenue, they really hating on the Steelers.
What dude from Cleveland all of a sudden got a job in the league office? To think that you have to play the Ravens twice, the Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and then the Eagles and the Chiefs, right? A team that won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. A team that was in the Super Bowl a year before. You have to play those teams to finish the season when the end of the season is where we've seen the Steelers find ways to compete. It's the beginning of the season when they suck, right? Coach Tomlin has a saying, I try to make things as uncomfortable as possible. Guess what, my dog? You ain't got to try hard this year because the NFL did it for you. And when you look at the schedule, it's always about, okay, what are our primetime games? After I figure out what our primetime games are, I want to know what teams do I play late in the season. First, because it'd be cold as hell in the AFC North. Yep. Secondly, you want to see how good those teams are. And when you look at this schedule, you normally go down the list and you go, win, even, win. You never say loss when you're in Pittsburgh because we don't expect that, Green. We got the New York Jets. Right. And then, but when they get to the end of this season, there are going to be some question marks in the heads of these guys leading up to that schedule. And so the pressure is going to be on this team early in the season when you're still trying to find out who your starting quarterback is.
G. Bush, it's, that's tough. I can't argue with a thing that he said. They play every AFC North team sandwiched around a couple of really good teams. Tough, huh?
Yeah, listen, they might be out of here. And if their quarterback situation ain't figured out by then, it might be a wrap for them. They did y'all dirty. And listen, we came on the air and said, hey, 12 through 18 for the Browns is brutal. No. They gave y'all all 6 AFC North teams.
Yep.
All 6. Yep. Right at the end of the year. Then you got the Eagles. I do believe that they actually have. Don't they have the Chiefs too?
Yep, they do. That's their last date.
Yeah. Sorry, fellas. It ain't looking good for you over there, Mike Tomlin. I know you got your aviator glasses, but you crying behind those glasses right now. He's crying. Oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah, you're done. Even if you go 500. That's bad. See, listen, that's bad work. These games in the beginning of the season, I'm letting y'all know right now, do not come out and be on this ain't 2005. Well, it's a long season and very long season. You don't want to put too much on one game. It's very early. No. Them games count. Just like if you don't get off to a good start, good luck. Good luck, bro. Because you're not going to be how difficult it is to run. You know how hard it is to run off a couple in a row, 3, 4 in a row at the end of the year when you need it. That it's cold outside, and you got quarterback after quarterback after quarterback coming to town. No. Sorry, Pittsburgh. The Bengals got off cheap this year. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're playing like the third best teams in all these divisions. Like they got off easy. The rest of them three, I don't know. Pick your poison.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate you.
G. Bush, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, 8 until noon on Saturdays. You can also catch him the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Stay with us.
Go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Brad Ward. He is from the Orange and Brown Report, also hosts the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, I know you wrote an article, and I'm curious, take us through this. Impact of the Browns' schedule on a run at the AFC North title. And we saw last year, AFC North title means home playoff game. You want a home playoff game.
Yeah, so very interesting AFC North schedule from not just a Browns perspective, but all three teams, right, or all four teams, the three other teams. Everything is pushed late in the season, right? You don't get a divisional game in the AFC North until, I think, week 5. Browns don't start till week 7. The Steelers don't get a divisional game until week 11. So it's all pushed to the back end of the schedule, kind of setting up for what could be a interdivisional bloodbath of sorts, you know what I mean, down the stretch. So that is very interesting. On a Browns perspective, very weird. 3 straight home games in the division, 3 straight road games in the division, not mixed up at all. 2 of those are in that home stand where you get the 4 weeks at home, including the bye week. NFL didn't do them any favors in giving them 2 short weeks, Dave, in divisional games. So 2 Thursday night games where you're going on short rest against divisional teams. Not great, but it happens, you know. It is what it is, but you wouldn't ask for that. You kind of would wish maybe one of those was coming off the bye so you didn't have to deal with the, you know, those Thursday night games are kind of like the great equalizer for a lot of teams. You're beat up, you're coming off of, 3 days rest or whatever, and it's not ideal. So that certainly affects the Browns. When you look at, the division as a whole, everybody has a really difficult schedule. The Steelers especially probably maybe have the most difficult schedule of anybody in the NFL. But some key divisional games down the stretch. Browns got that nice Week 10 bye. But there's a lot of aspects to look at and a lot of late season matchups between these teams, which is really interesting. Nothing early going on in the season as far as the division goes. So the NFL obviously thinking this is going to maybe go to the end.
Yeah, and the AFC North, when I see people projecting somebody to go 5-1 or 6-0, and that doesn't happen in the AFC North. It's either 3-3 or 4-2. It just, you do not win all 6 of those divisional games. The other thing that strikes me, Kevin Stefanski, for whatever reason, my perception is they do pretty well in the Thursday night games.
Yeah, preparation-wise, the one schedule quirk in there too, not to mention, you're right about the Thursday night games, but the other thing I would bring up is the schedule quirk with the Steelers, where you get Steelers and then another opponent and then the Steelers again. So I think it's at Denver in between. That happens every once in a while where you get the, a couple years ago it was Ravens, bye week Ravens, right? And this year it's Steelers Monday football in Denver and then the Steelers again. When you play a team twice in 3 weeks, to me, Dave, that comes down to a lot of logistical planning, who can best, get the right rest for your players, and coaching, right? Who can make adjustments in a 2-3 week period, 1 week of film in between, quick adjustments to beat the team in that second matchup. I think coaching plays a huge part in that. So same thing with the Thursday night games.
All right, so this from CBS Sports. One good thing and one bad thing each team will face this season relative to the schedule. Good thing, Browns were 8-1 at home last year, so they're likely happy with the fact they'll go more than a month without leaving Cleveland, weeks 7 through 10. Bad thing, brutal 5 games to finish the season. They go at Pittsburgh, home against Kansas City, at Cincinnati, home against Miami, at Baltimore. So your 3 AFC North road games sandwiched between the defending Super Bowl champs and the NFL's track team in the Miami Dolphins. That is a pain, but you know what? The AFC North has that with all of their teams except the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's brutal, but it's brutal for everybody in the AFC North coming down the stretch. And I would say that if you want the Dolphins, you want them week 17 at night in Cleveland, right?
Yep.
In late December. So, let's hope for freezing conditions that night, because we saw what they did last year against the Chiefs in the playoffs. They struggle in the cold, it appears. So. All
right, I know you wrote an article, to-do list, before the start of the regular season. Take us through what is on the honey-do list of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry as they get ready for the season.
Yeah, certainly a lot to do, but, main priorities, obviously the health of Deshaun Watson and installing this offense, right? So you've heard a lot of stuff coming out from like Mary Kay on the offense and, the choice routes, the spread, the RPO, all the stuff that we've been talking about, Dave. Sounds like that's what they're focusing on. So that install with Watson present and healthy and a part of it has got to be priority one, right? So when can that happen? Can it happen in mini camp? Are we talking training camp? I would probably think training camp is probably a more likely timeline, but who knows there. But it's got to get done as soon as possible. You got to get Jerry Jeudy acclimated to everything. So, and everybody, really, it's a new offense. So that's priority one. Priority two is on the defensive side of the ball. We know that Jim Schwartz and his wide 9 can pressure, and they're ultra aggressive. But we saw teams use the aggression against them last year, especially in the playoff game. The Colts game, good coaches were able to do that. What is, Jim Schwartz's second pitch going to be, right? We know he can throw the fastball. He can throw the heater all day long, but he's got to have, just like in baseball, he's got to have that second pitch or off speed or curve or something to take teams off the fastball, right? Because that has to be the way that the defense evolves, right? They have to have something else they go to when teams start using the aggression and the pressure that the defense brings against them. So what is that second pitch going to be that neutralizes offenses? And then I look at the roster, and it goes linebacker depth, tight end depth. Dave, those are my main concerns there. If Watson doesn't step up, the drafted Nathaniel Watson doesn't step up at linebacker 3, and your flyer on Devin Bush doesn't work out, it gets thin real quick back there. So maybe sign a veteran linebacker, and certainly I think they need to sign a veteran tight end. At some point, they're going to have to address a dual threat tight end, somebody that can block and catch passes besides Njoku. Because if he gets hurt right now, they don't have anybody that can really do that. So.
All right, so along those lines, we talked a little bit about this before. 3 unanswered questions after the draft. We've already addressed one of them, that's the tight end depth. Succession plan at tackle and nickel cornerback. What do you think of those?
So the nickel has kind of changed, right? They picked up Greg's 5th-year option, so, that does change. I still don't think they want to pay him $14 million to play the nickel in next year, even though they, you kind of had to pick up the option. So Will he be on the block this offseason? I don't know. I certainly am a big fan of Cam Mitchell and Miles Harden. So I think you have plenty of depth there. It's just kind of what do you want to do? And do you see Greg Newsome as a part of this secondary long term? Like, if he's just going to play the nickel, Dave, for the majority of his career here, now it's great. He has great flexibility. He can go outside when Denzel misses his 2-3 games a year. So he does add value there, but not $14 million value, right? If your nickel cornerback is going for like $4 or $5 million a year, probably. So they've got to that's going to come to a head at some point. And obviously the offensive tackle position is key. You've got to figure this out before next year. Now we're looking down the line. This isn't a 2024 problem. This is a 2025 problem, but they've got to make a decision there. Right now, the fact that they didn't draft anybody there, they brought in Hakeem Adeniji. I don't know if they see him as a long-term option, but man, at the risk of infuriating all of your listeners, Dave, are they leaning towards a Wills extension? I have no idea, but it certainly seems like it's on the table at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They like their draft picks and they give them time. So a Wills extension, it would not surprise me. All right, before we go to break, this is interesting. Mike Clay, who does a bunch of stuff for ESPN, tweets this out. Random fact, Jerry Jeudy is 6 months older than Tank Dell, who was a rookie last year, and Jaden Reed, who was also a rookie last year. So Jeudy was incredibly young when he came into the league. That could be another thing that factors into their thought process in extending him. He is a young guy with a lot of experience in the NFL.
Well, we know how their draft process works, and with the age guardrails, and they certainly take that into effect. And probably why Andrew Berry has kind of been sniffing around Jerry Jeudy for a couple years now, right? He sees a guy with explosive traits and very young age, and he wants to make him a part of the roster. They like something about him, and the age is part of it, probably, Dave.
Brad Ward from the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, as well as the Orange and Brown Report. And I can step aside, take a quick timeout. Bleacher Report, overranked quarterbacks, overrated, overpaid. We'll talk about that when Sports4CLE continues. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report. He also is the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. This is from the Bleacher Report. How much every starting quarterback in the NFL is really worth? For Deshaun Watson, they say he is in the overpaid tier. That includes Watson, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Gardner Minshew, and Kyler Murray. Average annual value of his contract, $39 million. What he's really worth, they say $33 million. Problem with Watson's contract is it's fully guaranteed. Few will fault him for making Daniel Jones or Derek Carr money in terms of annual average value. After all that, the track record of talent is there. That said, exact number is still a tad high considering hasn't been consistently effective in the NFL since 2020. A couple things about that. The guaranteed contract, Brad, that was how they got him to sign. Remember, there's 10, 11 teams that wanted him. And he hasn't been consistent because he hasn't been consistently on the field. That's the biggest consistency that he needs. He needs to be out there playing football.
Yeah, this is kind of a strange article, or just the approach. So they're going to say he's not worth $39 million, but he is worth $33 million, Dave. So we're talking about, they've estimated a $6 million difference here. That's just kind of strange. Like, well, okay, well, I mean, the $6 million is for, like you said, the signing or whatever, but I mean, $6 million per year for a franchise quarterback, or what you hope to be your franchise quarterback, it's not a significant difference, I don't think, especially for like the Haslams, right? Or so it's an interesting take that they think he's worth $6 million less. I think they're saying he's overpaid. I get that. I would say incomplete, to your point, Dave. It's an incomplete assessment of him. Yes, you had to give him the fully guaranteed to come here. And was that worth it? We don't know yet. We hope so. We've seen flashes. I think that there's a very good chance that he can absolutely come out and be exactly what the Browns need this year if he can stay healthy. So it's a health issue, but it's an absolute incomplete grade. So all these people that want to call this the worst trade ever, and, you know, here we go again with the, you know, he's not worth that amount of money. The writer does concede he is worth something because of the potential. But yeah, you're paying for the ceiling, right, Dave?
Right.
I mean, you're paying for the ceiling. You're paying for what he could potentially be. And I would say on this roster, you don't even need him to achieve that ceiling. You just need him to be top 15 quarterback. I think the Browns have a great chance to have success.
All right, this is interesting as well. This is from NFL Rumors. So most yards per catch in 2023, and this surprised me a little bit. Number one in the league was the Steelers' George Pickens at 18.1. Number two, Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers. Number three, Amari Cooper, 17.4 yards per catch. And you know, it's the thing that is ironic about that. You don't think of Amari Cooper as this guy with blazing speed that's going to beat a defense. What it shows you is there are a number of ways to get behind a defense, and running good routes is one of them.
Absolutely. And to this kind of answers the question a lot of people that are begging for that super speedster guy to take the top off of defenses, which everybody loves, and they tried the whole Marquise Goodwin experiment, but they have guys that can get behind the defense, Dave. Amari Cooper caught a lot of long balls last year, to your point right here. So they have guys that are deep threats, and I think Jerry Jeudy will present one as well.
So this is another one that's kind of interesting. Team running back carries from inside the 5-yard line in 2023. We think of the Browns as this big smash-mouth football team that runs the ball, and Kevin Stefanski likes that. Well, inside the 5-yard line, Lions ran the ball the most, 27 times. Niners were second. Dolphins were third. Ravens were fourth. Rams were fifth. Browns down at 10th, 10 carries, 10 full carries. So, you know, almost half the amount of carries as the Lions inside the 5-yard line. That's got to get a little bit better, or they got to throw the ball. The red zone offense needs to be better. That's something that I'm sure they are working on.
Yeah, they've got to create easy yardage in situations like this, schematically, right? Like, there's a lot of teams that are able to, you know, create on first down an easy 5-7 yards, and in the red zone this becomes especially critical by just, you know, a quick flare pass, or, you know, a shift that gets somebody leverage and gets them a quick 5 yards. And the Browns seem like they, until the end of the year when it kind of shifted with Flacco at quarterback, it seemed like they every yard was very difficult to get at times, right? So they need to be able to create easy, quick yardage, but in the red zone, they do so much play action, Dave. That's where I think that number gets skewed a little. Is you know, teams think they're going to run the ball, but they run a ton of play action in the red zone, which I think is okay. But you see the more successful teams, I would think, are at the top of that list that run the ball more. So I think there's probably a correlation there with running the ball more inside the red zone. You have more success.
All right, before I let you go, we talked a little bit earlier about things that would finish the roster off. You mentioned linebacker, you mentioned tight end, backup types. Who are some names of free agents that are out there that you think would make sense? Give me a couple of names, either position or both if you want.
Well, so they've got Trayton Welch on, you know, he's your UDFA option at tight end. The problem is I don't think he's a dual threat either, Dave. I'm not, maybe can they teach him up on blocking? I don't know, but he certainly has a chance to try to fill that role. And they have Zaire Payton Mitchell. But if free agency, I mean, the guy is Logan Thomas, right? Like, he would be perfect. I saw that Robert Tonyan signed yesterday, so he was another option. But still, Logan Thomas feels like the best option out there. The question is, how much money would he want? But still, I mean, he's an older guy. I can't imagine it would require a ton of money to bring him in. But like right now, if David Njoku gets dinged, you don't have anybody that can line up in line and really block and go out and catch passes, like except for Payton Mitchell. So maybe they think he can fill the role. Unlikely, I think, but that's where they're at. I think they need to address that. Zach Cunningham, linebacker, has played for Schwartz. I think he's still a free agent, and he would be a good option, I think, to potentially add to depth in that linebacker room. So those are two names that I kind of have keyed on as far as free agency, or if you want to add a veteran to this roster to kind of finish it off. I think depth at linebacker is something they're going to see what they have, see if somebody takes a step forward with Diabate, Fields, Watson, and Bush. So they kind of have four guys there that have potential to be good. Can any of them take that step forward enough to where they feel comfortable if JOK or Hicks gets dinged, they can put one of them in there to play significant snaps in the nickel. So that's kind of where you're at, I think, with linebacker depth. It doesn't appear a huge need because you have Hicks and JOK, but and you're only going to play your base three linebacker set probably 10% of the time, right? So, but you're going to have somebody that can step in and take those snaps at some point, Dave.
Yeah, I would agree. Brad Ward, Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
You're the best, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out, Orange and Brown Report. He is also the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. We're going to take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter, on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We turn our attention to the Cavaliers on Sports4CLE. Season ended with a loss to Boston in the second round of the playoffs, 4-1, so they went down in 5. Let's welcome in Chris Fedor. He is the Cavs beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Chris, it didn't take long after that for a number of questions to start circulating. It was within an hour or so. First of all, what are you hearing about the status of head coach J.B. Bickerstaff?
It's something, Dave, that the Cavs are going to continue to evaluate. They're going to look at the good and the bad. They're going to look at the entire season. They're going to look at his entire tenure, and then they're going to ask themselves, is there a candidate out there that would allow us to take the next step as an organization? And I think that's what it's about when it comes to this team. That's why it's so delicate this offseason. That's why it's so important this offseason. This wasn't a championship or bust year. It wasn't Boston. It wasn't Milwaukee. The expectations weren't the same as Denver, but they're heading into a position with this franchise where they've got to try and figure out, what are we going to do? What can we do to keep Donovan Mitchell and show him that this is the place where he needs to be? This is where he should be for the next 3 to 5 years, so that we can try and take the next step as an organization. They went to the play-in tournament a couple of years ago. Then they advanced from there to the playoffs, lost in the first round of the playoffs, advanced to the playoffs again this year, got out of the first round, got to the Eastern Conference semifinals, one of 8 teams in the NBA to be playing in the conference semifinals. So you can't ignore the things that JB has accomplished with this organization. He brought this franchise out of the rebuild darkness and made it respectable and relevant again. Back-to-back playoff series appearances. The first playoff series win without LeBron James in more than 30 years. JB was a part of that. He was a big part of that. But at the end of the day, is he the right person for us to take the next step as an organization? That's what the Cavs are asking themselves right now in terms of the evaluation. Is he the kind of playoff tactician that we need? Does he make the in-game adjustments quick enough? All of those things, that's what the Cavs are trying to figure out.
I don't think there's a slam dunk candidate out there that would replace him. It's not like there's a guy that's won 5 NBA titles that's waiting to coach. Does anybody like that pop into your head at all?
The best coaching candidate out there right now, Dave, is Mike Budenholzer, who has a lot of success on his resume, a championship as well. In terms of what he did for Atlanta, that speaks for itself. In terms of what he did for Milwaukee, same thing. You can't ignore that. But if he is the best candidate out there, one, there's going to be competition. Two, would he willingly choose Cleveland, understanding that it's pretty uncertain when it comes to the future of Donovan Mitchell? But I agree with you, and that's part of the evaluation when it comes to the Cavs and what they're going to do with JB. Do they see a clear-cut, better option out there that can bring things to this organization that they feel like JB lacks? And I don't think it's an easy answer. You can't sit here and say, well, JJ Redick does, or we're going to fire JB Bickerstaff for James Borrego, or unproven Sam Cassell. So it's a layered conversation. It's a complicated conversation. And I think it's made more complicated by the fact that the pool of candidates out there is very, very shallow.
All right, the other thing is, kind of interested in your thoughts. Take a listen to what Brian Windhorst said he's hearing relative to Donovan Mitchell and signing an extension.
When I talk to people behind the scenes, it's all over the place. I got people telling me Donovan is staying, the contract is drawn up, $205 million, he ain't turning it down, he's going to be in Cleveland, not going anywhere, don't talk to me about it again. And I got other guys saying, and I don't mean like some people who don't know, but people who would know. Sure. I got other guys saying he ain't signing. We got our trade offer ready, or so-and-so's got a trade offer ready. He's going there, he's going there. And I trust both of them. Ooh. Okay? So what does that tell you? That tells you that Donovan has played this very skilled and close to the vest.
Yeah. Chris, you've said this for quite a while. Nobody knows what Donovan Mitchell is thinking relative to Cleveland.
No, not when it comes to Cleveland specifically, not when it comes to his future specifically. But I think Donovan has dropped clues throughout this entire process of what ultimately matters to him and what ultimately he is looking for in a basketball situation. And I'll put it here. I'll start here because I think this matters. And I wrote it the other night for cleveland.com, even though it wasn't the thing that went crazy viral. Donovan is happy in Cleveland. He has expressed that many times, publicly and privately, that he likes this situation. He believes in the direction of this organization. He believes in many of his teammates. He believes that this is a place where he can consistently win. He has seen this team go from play-in team to playoff team to a team that got to the Eastern Conference semifinals. But Donovan wants to compete for championships. Donovan believes that he's at a point in his career, he has reached a status where he is going to be evaluated and judged specifically by team playoff success. He has never, for all of the times that he has gotten to the playoffs, every single time that he has been in the NBA, every single season he has gotten to the playoffs. But he's never gotten out of the second round of the playoffs. And that eats at him. That bothers him. He can't be the face of the NBA like he wants to be one day when LeBron is gone, when Steph is gone, when KD is gone. He can't be the face of the NBA with that big missing piece on his resume. So it's all about, can I win here in Cleveland? What kinds of things can this organization do this offseason when it comes to the roster, when it comes to the coach, when it comes to the supporting cast around me? that put me in a position to best compete for a championship. That's what Donovan is wondering. That's what Donovan is asking, because he wants championships. That's what he's chasing. Anytime anybody makes any decision in the NBA or in Major League Baseball or the NFL, Dave, you know this. There are different factors involved, but there's always one driving factor. And for Donovan, he is driven by winning. And if he believes that Cleveland is the place where he can chase championships, where they'll give him the opportunity to get out of the second round, get to the conference finals, get to the NBA finals, then he's going to stay. And he's going to happily stay. But if he feels like there's a better basketball situation out there that gives him something that Cleveland cannot, or Cleveland does not at this point in time, then I think he's going to explore that. And I think he's going to tell the front office, you know what, I'm not comfortable signing an extension because of this, 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 and this. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know if it's going to be in Cleveland. But I can tell you that it's going to be the place where Donovan feels like he has the best opportunity to chase a championship, because that is all that matters, right? Let's rephrase. That is the most important thing that matters to him right now.
So let me ask you this: as you look at the core four, you've got Mitchell and Garland, you've got Allen and Mobley. Can those two pairs of players play well at a championship level together? Do we know the answer to that yet?
I don't think they can, Dave. I think there are too many stylistic conflicts between Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. I think there are too many stylistic conflicts when it comes to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. Now, it's not an easy decision when you're talking about potentially parting with that kind of talent. But if you can reconfigure the roster, if you can rejigger the supporting cast, if you can bring in a skill set or a couple of skill sets that's lacking from this roster that aren't duplicates, then I think you have to explore it. And I do think the Cavs will explore that. I don't think, though, Dave, they had the kind of season where, okay, we got to panic. All right, we have to make a move just to make a move. They made it to the Eastern Conference semifinals. They won a game on the road against Boston. That was progress. That was a step forward. That was a big, big step for this organization to take. Now it's about how do we take the next step, right? And that next step, that's the hard one, because then you're talking about being on the same level as Boston and Philadelphia and Milwaukee and some of those other teams. And I just don't think run it back and see what happens, see if we can be healthier than we were this year. I don't think that's the answer to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? So I do think the Cavs have to explore, okay, can we make this roster make a little bit more sense? Can we make the pieces around Donovan, if he's going to stay here and commit to us long term, can we make those pieces fit a little bit better alongside him? And I do think that the Cavs have reached a point where there are too many stylistic conflicts between both of those pairings. And it's time to choose if they get the right pieces back in return in a possible trade that they believe is going to allow them to advance this thing forward and not just be a lateral move.
Yeah, if you're looking to take a step into the elite, you've got to give up either, you know, it's some combination of those four guys. That's the only thing that's going to get you a piece that would take you into the elite status. It just is. You don't have any first round picks, so you got to give up something of value to get something of value.
Yes, it's supposed to be painful. Just like at the time that the Cavs traded away all of the picks that they traded away, and Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton, they had to give up those guys of value in order to get a player the caliber of Donovan Mitchell. So if you want Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Kevin Durant, some of the wings that are probably going to be available this offseason in the NBA marketplace, then it's going to cost some combination of Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and other things. Or maybe it's going to be Jarrett and something, or Darius and something, in separate maneuvers and stuff like that. If you're talking about landing that caliber player, it's supposed to be painful. And it's going to be painful, just like it was a couple of years ago when the Cavs traded everything they gave up in order to get Donovan. But you know what? It was worth it, because they reached a level that they weren't guaranteed to reach without him. And if you're talking about trying to reach a new level, I don't think it's going to happen with the combination of Darius and Donovan together. And I just think there are too many limitations offensively if you're going to play Jarrett and Evan Mobley together in terms of spacing, in terms of shooting, in terms of just an offensive ceiling, because I feel like those two guys tend to get in each other's way.
Chris Fedor, should be an interesting next couple of months with the Cavs. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff. Thanks very much, Chris.
You got it, man. Anytime.
Chris Fedor, make sure you check him out. Always outstanding Cavs coverage, Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great night or a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.